how to create an amazing customer experience and kind of the secret sauce of how to do that fast.
I thought I was losing clients, and I ended up doing similar stuff like this down the line. We ended up re-signing them for like double the retainer. Like, it was blowing my mind.
You can actually make improvements on what you're bringing to your clients before they quit, but you have to have that feedback loop.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and failures. Gary, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I am super excited about today. But before we get any further, make sure you guys go and leave a review. We need you guys to leave a review. We have thousands of people. Actually, just the last couple clips have gotten tens of thousands of views, but we don't have a lot of reviews yet. So please go do that. Derrik's grandma is the only one that's left us a review, and we need to amp that up. So please, please, please go take care of that for us.
100%. And guys, the only other thing I would add to that is if you guys are not the type of person who enjoys full-length podcasts, I get it. I've been there. Check out us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. We have clips that are 30 to 60 to 90 seconds long, and we're planning on eventually actually releasing 2 to 10 minute clips from the episodes too, which is really, really soon as well. So guys, that's all coming your way. Check us out on those platforms. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic back to Gary. He's going to explain what we're talking about today.
So today we are going to talk about a subject that actually we went into our community that's full of marketing agencies, and we asked them, what do you want us to talk about on this show? What problems can we help solve? And the thing that came up over and over and over again was how to create an amazing customer experience and kind of the secret sauce of how to do that fast. I know that anytime that you're building an agency out there, you kind of feel like you're in the woods and you don't really know left from right or what way to kind of get out of the woods. And so today we're just going to give you some really easy things, 3 easy things, but the last one is the most important, and I think that's what's going to bring you the most value today.
Yeah, and you know what really excites me about today is for anybody who might just be starting out, right? At least this is what I learned from my experience. You kind of have 2 things you have to manage when it really comes to growing and scaling your business, aside from, operations. It's sales and marketing, right? Getting more business into the door. But what do you do when you have those clients, right? What do you do when you're making 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K in MRR, and now you're like, okay, now I have to retain these clients and get new business. How do I do that? That's the secret that we want to share with you today and get you both of the perspective from somebody who's tactically doing it and Gary who's been doing it for much longer. With that said, I think let's dive into, this first thing here. What's something like somebody in my position, right? I'm in a position where I have a good amount of clients, and the most important thing right now is creating the best experience. What is the first steps that I have to do to make that happen?
So the first thing that I would do is make sure that I'm different. So you don't want to be the same as everybody else. If you're the same as everybody else, you are just going to be a commodity, which means that they're just going to go against price. And even if you do an amazing job of delivering said product or service, it doesn't really matter if someone else is doing it at 30% less because you position yourself as a commodity. So Derrik and I have talked about this a lot in his business. He is not in the business of video editing. I always tell him that all the time. Don't be a video editor because video editing is actually a commodity, right? You have a set amount of money that you would pay for someone to actually do the service of video editing. But storytelling has huge upside and it's not a commodity. And so you can actually charge a lot more for telling compelling stories because then you can say these compelling stories that I help you create, that is going to lead for more views, and those more views is more interaction, which more interaction leads to more results, which we'll talk about later. So it's really important that you position yourself differently. How we position ourselves differently is we're a marketing agency for dentists, but we do not actually position ourselves as a marketing company first. We market ourselves and position ourselves as a data and operational company, meaning we help them realize if their marketing's even working or not, and then we work backwards into marketing, and we're the only company in the space that's doing that. So it instantly puts us on a unique foot, and there's no comparison that they can make from a cost standpoint. So that's the first part that you really have to tie up, and then the second part of that is you have to get easy wins. What I mean by that is if you sign the contract and then it's extremely painful for this person to onboard with you, extremely painful for everything that they go through with you to get to the thing that they actually want, whatever your service is, whatever kind of agency you have, that is super bad. And what you have to do is you have to find easy wins along the way to be able to help them know that you're awesome. And it's really that simple. You have to find really, really easy wins early on in the process and make sure that you're getting those wins over and over and over again. And without that, then people are just going to have a bad experience with your company.
So, it's really interesting to me, that perspective, because when you first gave me this advice and I put it into motion, it helped a lot. It was crazy because there was many situations where I thought I was losing clients, and I ended up doing similar stuff like this down the line. And we ended up re-signing them for like double the retainer. Like, it was blowing my mind. I was like, whoa, I just turned a client who I thought was leaving into double the value into the company and to double the term. But I guess getting more tactically, like somebody in my position, what are some easy wins that we could implement, especially when we're selling services that might not see results for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line?
Well, this is great because this is going to lead into our second point, which is how to deliver value. The first thing you have to do to be able to deliver wins is you have to actually figure out why people are working with you, right? So if you are in the business of editing videos and telling these stories, that's the service that you're offering, but that's not why they're signing up with you. Why are they actually signing up with you? Well, they want more views. Why do they want more views? Because it helps them drive revenue for their podcast. Bingo. Okay, great. So now we know how to actually support them. And then now I would ask the question, how do you get that faster? So if right now it takes 3 weeks to onboard, how can you get them a win in week 1? And it might just be, hey, while we were signing the documents and during the setup period, we went back and edited one of your old shows and we were able to pull 2 clips from it. Here, you need to start using these right now. And that way you exceeded their expectation. You went out of the way to deliver what they actually wanted, and you started providing results before they expected them. That's how you get an easy win. For us, we really struggled with this because our onboarding, we signed up too many clients. We had 176 locations in queue, and we didn't have the bandwidth to actually manage that. And we experienced like massive growth. I've never been through something like that. It was very, very painful. It was a huge learning curve for us. But as we went through that, we realized, our process is too long. It's too messy. We need to start managing expectations all the way through. And we started building things called mini sites for people. So if people were like, I need new patients like now, we're like, cool, we can get a mini site up in a week or 2. We can start getting results and phone calls for you right away. It's not going to be the best experience from a lead generation process, but we're going to be able to get you something rather than nothing so we can start getting those wins earlier and earlier and earlier. And that helped us out tremendously.
So it sounds like a big part of getting wins. It seems to me like it's taking initiative, it's taking charge, and it's doing the thing. So it's not necessarily where if they're expecting, 1 million views a month, like I'll use my example, they want 1 million views a month and they want consistent impact and consistent reach. Obviously that can't be done in 2 days, right? It'll take 2-3 months to get a good content flow out there, get good systems in place and have that happen. But so it's not necessarily quick and easy wins of the results. It's more so quick and easy wins of putting the processes in place. Like, for example, getting them and showing the initiative, hey, like here's what we're doing every day to actively reach our goals, and reiterating and communicating and showing that to the client. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, it's just beating expectations. So it's like when you go to a restaurant and you've read amazing reviews at that restaurant and it talks about how amazing the food is and everything's so wonderful. And then you show up and you wait an hour for the food. Well, at that point, it almost doesn't matter. They've failed you because they didn't exceed your expectations. But if they told you when you got in line, hey, it's going to be an hour before you order your food and before you receive your food, then they're setting expectations for you. And then if they deliver it in 40 minutes or 30 minutes, now they just exceeded your expectations. Same outcome or similar outcome, but the communication's so key in that. And so it's setting those landmark of wins along the way. So that way they're not disappointed, because in the example of the restaurant, even if your food is amazing, but you have to wait that hour and you were only thinking you're going to wait 15 minutes, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter that the food was awesome. They failed overall.
Yeah, no, I want to expand on this a little bit because I've been struggling with this myself, right? And I've been putting this into place. And I believe you and I touched on this a while ago. I was listening to a podcast with Alex Hormozy, The Game, his podcast. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I listen to it all the time. And in his show, and recently, like last week, he made an episode, and part of it was about managing expectations. And he literally used the same analogy. He used a movie. He's like, well, so when you go to your friends and they say this movie was amazing, you go, no matter how great the movie is, you go to the movie and you're going to say, yeah, it was good. You know, it lived up to expectations. But if somebody tells you that the movie is not good at all and it's trash, and you go to the movie and it was actually decent, you're like, well, this movie was amazing, right? Even though it might not have been like, whoa, this is fantastic, but the expectations is what set the terms, basically.
Yep.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like in anybody in my position and in your position, even if something is not going to be as fast as you would necessarily like it to be, even if you can't get results as quickly, even if, you know, whatever that may be, or if there's an issue, as long as we communicate and manage their expectations, is that how we can help create those easy wins and you know, create that long-term retention?
100%. And a lot of it has to do with alignment. So here's what happens in a normal situation. Salesperson promises the moon. We're going to get you in right away. We're going to get this closed right away. We're going to get you new customers right away. And then operations comes in and goes, that's going to take 4 months. And now you don't have alignment. Your sales is not aligned with operations, and your client's not aligned with your company. The trick to business is getting alignment and getting everybody rowing in the same directions. If you can get sales to say the same thing that's actually going to happen, and then you repeat it back to them as they go through the onboarding process, and then you actually deliver it or you exceed that expectation, then everybody wins and everybody's aligned. So the trick is getting everybody aligned, not everybody rowing in different directions.
That makes total sense. So bottom line is manage expectations. How do you manage expectations? Make sure that your team is aligned properly. In doing so, you're subsequently going to, you know, by extension, be able to present easy and quick wins to clients, which will get them re-engaged right away, especially in that beginning phases, and help you retain those clients longer.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things for me is I never realized how important alignment was, or I always assumed that everybody was aligned because I said something once. You saying something once as the leader does not mean anybody's aligned.
Guilty as charged. 100% guilty as charged. I've been learning this the hard way. I've had multiple conversations with people on the team now about like the same thing, and it's similar to getting aligned. And I feel like I can't say this many more times because it's just not making sense. But I mean, I guess sometimes that is the case. The next thing, I think that the next step about this, going into, you know, the second big point, team is aligned, right? You know what the value is. You have the ability to manage expectations, but how do you go about delivering the value consistently in a way that blows your clients away, where they want to stay with you 12 plus months?
Yeah, so this is hard to do, and it's not intuitive. So you and I have had this conversation before where you're like, Gary, I'm delivering above what I should be for these people, and then they still want to quit. And I said, yeah, I've been there too, where we helped an office double or triple, and then they say, I want to quit. So, and that happens. So what's failing there is the communication of the value. So first you have to set the table of what the value is. So clients are always going to move the landmark on you. So I ask my team all the time when they bring a problem to me with a client and they say, hey, this client's struggling, you know, let's talk about it. Let's get aligned on it. I will ask them, what is success for this client? How is this client measuring success? And if they say, we don't know, I don't know how to help. I have no idea how to help. I don't know where to go or even what to look at. But when they say, oh, we are aiming for 300 new patients a month between these couple offices, then I can actually come in and diagnose, oh, we're missing the mark on that. Why are we missing the mark on that? Oh, it's an operational issue that they're having. Have we articulated that to the client? Yes, but it didn't. We did articulate it to the client, but it didn't trickle up to the CEO. So now the CEO is reaching out saying we're not hitting expectations, but they don't realize that it's actually because they're not answering their phones. So there's this game, and then again, it goes back to alignment of how do you get everybody aligned on what value actually is, and then how do you articulate it over and 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 over again. If you ever stop articulating your value as a marketing agency, there's always somebody hotter and newer out there. There's always somebody better out there, that the new shiny thing. That's what's awesome about being an agency owner, is that you can always get your foot in the door and say, hey, we have this hot new thing, and someone will talk to you, and that's amazing. But the downside is someone always is out there talking to your client saying, we can give you the next new thing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So I guess to be clear, maybe I misunderstood a little bit. It's not just alignment with your team; it's alignment with the client as well.
Yeah.
Right. So get your team aligned, and then get your client aligned.
Yeah. So here's the way to think about it: is that in every business that you're working with, there's operations. That operational structure has usually a marketing person that reports to operations, or they bounce ideas back and forth. It's much easier to fire the external marketing person than it is to change the operational system that business has. It's way easier. So what you have to do is you are either going to die on the hill or operations is going to die on the hill. So as a marketing agency, the more that you can articulate your value to operations and that they're actually bottlenecking themselves and it's not marketing, the longer you're going to stay with that business because you're providing a higher level of value. But if you can't articulate that and all you're doing is saying, we got you some clicks on a website or we got you a couple of views over here on a video, then your life is always going to be shorter with that client.
Well, so how do you, so when I hear that, my reaction is like, whoa, so now you're saying to really go above and beyond, to get, like, another way you put it to me in the past is to get really sticky. When it comes to client retention, you have to look for ways to stay stickier with clients, right? Whether that's doing more work for them and making it harder to part ways, right? And many other ways we can get into. But what about, how do you approach that conversation? Because it sounds to me like at that point, to get to that level, you have to go to the client and say, hey, you know, we're doing this for you, but even though we're doing this, you can't fulfill it, or this is causing problems. How do you do that without offending them or making them want to leave?
It's not an offensive thing, so it's a thing that's invisible to them. So I'm just going to use real life examples of clients that we work with. So we will drive 100 opportunities to an office, and they say, well, we didn't see those 100 opportunities. And so what we do is we're able to work through and actually start talking through why they didn't receive those opportunities. Number one, you didn't answer 35% of those calls. Number two, you only converted 50% of the opportunities because Susan isn't very good on the phone. And number three, you had a huge no-show rate of those opportunities because you're scheduling 3 weeks out. Patients don't want to wait more than 72 hours. You're putting them 3 weeks out. That's too far. And then from there, we even go further in. We can actually measure the ROI of the patient, so we can actually see how the doctors are performing and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of next level stuff. But the further you can go into the business, the more value you add, because otherwise marketing just becomes a guessing game. And so you might be thinking, well, that's too much. I don't know how to do that. I'll just tell you how I started it. What happened to me is I got my first dental client and they killed it. They went from doing $90,000 a month to $400,000 a month. Had no idea that was even special. But then I started working with another dental office and they didn't have the same outcome. And I looked at all the normal marketing metrics, how much web traffic, time on site, call to action, competition, all that kind of stuff. And everything looked the same. The number of phone calls they got were the same. And I couldn't figure out what the difference was. So I said, you know what? I want to put a tracking number on this practice, and I want to listen to the calls. So I put a tracking number on the site, and I listened to every single call that came in personally. And I was like, oh, they stink on the phone. They're horrible. They don't have any ability to be able to bring these people in. It doesn't matter how good of a marketer I am. They're never going to be successful. Any marketing would fail with the person answering the phone there. So I went to them and I played those calls for the doctor. Guess what the doctor said, Derrik? Do you think that they got mad at me or at the front desk person?
Probably the front desk person.
Perfect. So they weren't offended with me. They were super thankful. It was a black hole to them. They didn't even know it existed, and they were happy to now fix this problem. But now I had a problem on my hand. How do I fix it? Yeah. Right? So I had to go out and figure out, okay, what are the basics that I can teach this person, and how do I roll this up for them? So I created videos, gave them some simple steps, and their conversion came up. Now, here's where I made a mistake. I said, once I teach somebody this, then we're good. They're going to perform good forever, and I'm never going to have this problem again. Wrong. We have to track, to this day, we still track phone conversion because it's a huge problem. Another problem that we have with these offices, they don't answer the phones. In the dental industry, this is wild. In the dental industry, 35% of phones go unanswered.
Wow. It's a lot of business.
So that means if you... Yeah, it's a lot of business. So if you spend $10,000 on marketing, $3,500 goes down the drain. So if you don't track it, then you're losing that. Now, number one, that's a great selling point. But number two, every week we're watching that. So if that number goes up, we're telling them like, hey, you should either stop spending money on marketing or get the support that you need to be able to answer those phones. And I started tracking all of these things in a spreadsheet. I made it very, very simple. Now, we've since built a whole separate company. It has its own application. It can integrate with the practice management softwares and all those kind of things. But initially, it was just a spreadsheet.
You know, it's actually crazy to me that the way you describe that, because I don't know about anybody else listening, but when you describe that story, all I hear is opportunity in two ways. One, I literally just heard you describe how you not only made yourself stickier, how you communicated your value step by step, how you presented it to them with data and numbers, but you also opened up another entire door of a service that you could be offering to these people, which I'm sure is now bundled into your services.
Yeah.
Guys, not only will we, bring people to your door, we'll make sure that they convert for you, and here's how we do it. And that, before you started, you wouldn't even known that was possible until you tried to communicate that value and saw that gap.
Yeah, you have to work through it. The more you can learn about your customer, and this is why niching down is so important too. If you're not niched down, you really don't, it's hard to understand your customer. But if you niche down and really understand your customer, the level of value you can provide is insane from a marketing perspective, all the way into their business. And every step of the way, you become more valuable. Here's the other thing, Derrik. I don't have to sell marketing. This is what I sell. I sell, Hey, do you know what your average conversion rate is on the phone? No. Oh, industry average is 50%. Do you know what your unanswered call rate is? No. Oh, industry average is 35%. Do you know what your average no-show rate is for marketing patients? No. Oh, you're probably around 30% then. Do you know what your ROI is for your patients? No. Okay, then you're probably around. So I can just go in and just tell them. And now I'm not selling marketing. I'm selling the ability to be able to help them track their marketing. And I'm setting the benchmarks saying, here's what success looks like every step of the way. And this is how you actually provide value. This is value to them. And now they know if I spend $5,000 with Gary, here's what our output's going to be.
This isn't even a sales call. This is a podcast, and I'm sold on your services. I'm not even a dentist. So if you're a dentist or a dental office, I suggest you give Gary a ring or check out sfcnational.com. I'm sold. If I ever open up a dental practice, I know who I'm calling. But that's incredible. I can only dream. That's for any agency owner, I think for listening, what you just described is like my dream. Having the ability to have every hole covered by being able to provide so much value, being the go-to, knowing our numbers so well that it's exactly like you're describing. Like that it blew me away. But so, to recap and make sure that, the audience is understanding. So how do you create amazing client experiences and customer experiences, and how do you retain them long? First, you got to be different. How are you different? How are you different? What are you actually selling? You're not actually selling marketing. You're not actually selling video editing. What is that unique value proposition that puts you separate from all those other companies that make people want to do business with you, right? Then the only other part about that first point, right, is the easy wins. Yeah. So not only do you have to show why you're different, but you have to, when you sign a client, give them those quick and easy wins, reinforce like why they bought and did business with you in the first place, show them those easy wins. If it's hard for you to get results for them quickly, right, do it in the operations. Take the initiative, show them here's what we're doing to get there, right? Then, deliver value. And how do you deliver value? You have to, one of the ways is finding what holes are in the process, right? Going to see what the operations look like at your client side, what could be causing problems, get valuable on that side of things by filling those gaps for your client. And then also just, the next part of that, I guess, is this point 3, Gary, right? Where I would ask you, you know what your value is, right? But you don't know how to communicate that value. So how do you measure that value, and how do you communicate it in a way where it blows the clients away on a level where you can create the best client retention?
Well, the best thing that you can do here is actually get some feedback loops. So as I just described to you, we measure value all the way in. And let's use you first as an example. If I was working with you, Derrik, and saying, okay, how could we make you super sticky? How could we get a client that really wants to stay with you? The first thing that I would do is I would say, okay, we're providing video editing, which is storytelling. We're getting views. Then what? So what's the next step? What happens after someone gets a bunch of views?
See, that's the thing, getting unique. And I know we spoke about this. I tried doing something similar, right? We spoke about this where I asked them about the money side of things. And every single person I spoke with was like, dude, we just want the views. They're like, we literally just want the views. So almost 70, 80% of our clients.
So why do they want views?
Impact.
But what does that
mean? They want to increase their impact, increase their reach.
So they want eyeballs.
Just impact. They get to reach. They get to reach more people. Exactly.
And what does that do for them?
I thought that they could make more money, but to them it was literally just that. They just want more eyeballs. I mean, I guess if we go deeper, I get influence. I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. So then I would figure out, okay, how can I help them get more influence? How do is there a possibility that I can get my podcast to work together? Is there a possibility that I can get into some kind of network that will help them have more influence? So when you sign up for me, I also put you on my 10 other shows that I have, and you instantly have 10,000 more views every single day, or 10,000 more contacts every single, or whatever, right? Just getting them more of that influence, because you have something very valuable, Derrik. You have a network of people who have podcasts, and a lot of those could cross-pollinate if you figured out a way to do it. I can get you on this show and this show and this show and this show. And so if you came to me and said, hey, Gary, would you like to have a couple more guests? They'll all be in the marketing industry and they're going to be X, Y, and Z. I would say, oh, yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome. That'd save me a lot of work. So there's value there without you actually doing anything. But I would challenge you to push further into their businesses and figure out, if somebody does leave, why do they leave? And what was the gap? And this is where the feedback loop comes in. So for us, we have an NPS score. So an NPS score is a net promoter score. So we send it out to our clients. It's blind, so we don't know exactly who's filling it out at that company. We know the company that filled it out though. And then we see how they rank us. And it's on a scale to 1 to 10. How likely would you be to refer us to your friends, to your other dentist? And any 8 or above is somebody who's a promoter. That means they're already going out and telling people about you. I think it's 7 to 6 is somebody who's neutral. So that's actually somebody who, they're not going out and telling the world about you, but they're also not saying bad things about you. And then 5 and down is they're actually going out and saying bad things about you to other people. They're not only are they not going to refer to you, but if someone asks, they're probably not being positive. If you have that NPS score, you can actually make improvements on what you're bringing to your clients before they quit. But you have to have that feedback loop. If you don't have that, then everything else I just said is all going to be guessing. And sometimes you're going to get it right, and sometimes you're going to get it wrong. You really have to go to your customers and get that direct feedback.
So it sounds like, tactically, right? For somebody who's trying to create the best client experience, when it comes to measuring it, you have to know what the client deems as success and go deeper into what you're actually doing. Like you just went into it with me, like, why did the client work with it? It's not just to get more views, but what does that give them? Is it more money? Is it more influence? Is it impact? Is it eyeballs? And why do they want the eyeballs? Really go so deep where there's nothing that the client could say that could really surprise you, right?
Yeah.
When you have that clear, confirm that by creating a feedback loop with the client, right? So the way you can tactically measure it is an NPS score, right? Mm-hmm. Send them anonymous emails at a random time a month and say, hey, ask them a question hey, what are your thoughts on this? Rate it 1 to 10, 3 quick questions, something like that. Yep. Am I getting the NPS score correct? Yep. Yeah, and that's it. And I'm sure, is there software out there?
It's not every month. Yeah, there's tons of softwares out there. Just go Google NPS score. There's tons of them. And they work great. And the clients that aren't happy, you're going to see why they're not happy really quickly. And you're going to see trends in that. And then you're also going to see where the value actually is in your company. I've seen people who have agencies that provide value in areas that they didn't even realize was a big deal. I've also made the mistake where we were providing services that were not deemed valuable by the customer, but we were spending tons of energy on them. And they were actually getting us in trouble because we weren't doing them at a high level. Because we were like, the client kind of likes it, kind of doesn't. It's not a big deal. We'll just throw it in there. Huge mistake. We ended up stripping all those out of our process and made us more profitable. And it also helped us focus on our core product, which is why people actually value us.
And that was all stemming from, customer feedback loop and an NPS score. I mean, look, that makes perfect sense. And so I will say, I guess to bring it all together, right? So again, putting all 3 points, get clear on your value, right? So why don't we do it this way? I'm going to challenge you here uniquely, Gary. Yeah. I'd love to do this, and we're going to do this for the clip here. Let's see how this goes. If you had to boil it down in 60 seconds to 3 things and briefly explain them to create the best client experience and the highest retention, what would that be?
Yeah, so if I was going to create an amazing customer experience, the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to make sure to be different. How am I different from all of my competition? If you're the same as everybody else, then you're just a commodity. Number 2, you need to have easy wins. You need in the process to have easy wins all the way into your onboarding process, all of your marketing, everything that you're providing for the customer. If it's painful, they're going to leave you. It doesn't matter how much value you bring. Number 3 is how do you deliver value? And what I mean by that is how are you breaking down value to your customer from your team? If you're not articulating it well, then you are going to lose that customer because it becomes invisible. And number 4, you need to measure customer and client success and that has to be repeated back to the customer over and over and over again. So you need a feedback loop going to the customer, and you also need a feedback loop coming back to the company from the customer and how you're performing and what's valuable to them and what's not.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a client, that would sound like a pretty good experience to me. I think the only other thing that I would want to add to really help people who want to get tactical with it, like super tactical, like past the NPS score, I'll give an example of what you helped me. Actually, you gave me the idea on one of our masterminds one day to do this, and it's since really helped in a way that I didn't even know that I could provide value to my clients. Is consolidating all of their data and presenting it to them. Because so like before, they'd have data from Instagram, data from TikTok, data from YouTube, data from Twitter, data from LinkedIn. I went in and I said, hey, we're generating real results from you, but even for us, it's too clunky to look at TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and then come and present it individually. What if we found a way to give it to you in an automated report with all the analytics in one dashboard with an interactive report sent to you weekly? That's exactly what we did. And so that was a way that we were able to recommunicate value and show them like, hey, now they can see, not only did we generate the results, but you can see the results on a paper, on a spreadsheet, on a line graph. You can see it going up, which is the goal here, which is what we want. And then when we don't see it, we can catch it because we have that data. And we can always look to the numbers. Like, hey guys, last month you guys requested this. We went and we did your advice, and here's what the data reflected. We recommend doing it this way. Let's try it for 30 days and see how it happens, and then we'll see how the data reflects it. And that's kind of how we do it. That's one way, you show basically from the very beginning to the end, exactly throughout the process. Be transparent, right? Show the real results you're generating. Don't try to hide those results, and communicate that result often.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that popped in my head that's really important here is that you need to make sure that you have triggers of when people are dipping, that you actually have somebody on your team reaching out. So I think a lot of agencies try to dip under the radar. And so they just want somebody to keep paying them, and they know that the results are dipping, and they're just hoping that the client doesn't notice it. You need somebody on your team that's constantly raising that red flag wherever you're providing value, whatever you're doing, and communicating with the client and saying, we fell below this. Here's what we need to do. That's super valuable because most clients are too busy to go and look at that data regularly. However, they will look at it eventually. And when they do, if it's all bad, you're fired. And if you yeah, go ahead.
How do you do that? Because that's very valuable, and I think that that's the piece that's going to tie this all together. Because I think what happens, and I'll be honest, like with my company as well, right? We know how to do what we do better than anyone else, but everybody else will say the same thing to you, right? Except we have data and results to prove it in a long-term track record. But it takes different time with different clients to see the same results. We know we'll get there eventually. For one client, it took 30 days. Another, it might take 90 days, 180 days, but we will still get to that result.
Get to what result?
So the results that they deem success, right? Whatever they deem success,
and typically, so it's like 100,000.
So let's say 1 million views a month in perpetuity, consistently per month, right? On TikTok alone, right? But so how do you communicate to the client, like literally tactically, without firing yourself? Of like, hey, we're taking longer than usual, or hey, here's why it's not working, or here's what we're doing. How do you actually do that without getting yourself fired?
So again, it's just communication. So it's, hey, we want to get to 1 million views. That's going to take how long, Derek? To get to 1 million views a month?
We'll call it, let's say, 90 to 180 days.
Okay, so in the next 90 days, I'm just going to use round numbers. So in the next 90 days, we're going to get to 1 million views. So every month there should be communication and how you're progressing towards that goal. So month 1, we're 33% there. Month 2, we're not quite. We're only about 50% there now. So we're about 15% behind our goal. Hopefully we'll make it up next month, but if not, it may take a little bit longer. Month 3, we didn't reach our goal, but it looks like we're going to reach our goal next month. We're super excited about that. Month 4, we reached our goal. Yay, we celebrate. Now we're going to maintain this. Month 5, we dipped. This is not good. Here's what we're doing to adjust that. Here's the changes that we made to adjust that. Here's how we're getting back to that point.
So basically you're saying don't overthink it. Literally just do what you would want to have done for you, and just literally say, hey guys, here's the data, full transparency. We dropped the ball. Here's why. Here's what we're doing to fix it. And if it doesn't work, here's our plan to fix that.
I wouldn't say you drop the ball. I would set the table as the algorithm and the competition is not static. It's ever changing. And which means our strategy has to be ever changing. And sometimes our results go up, and sometimes based on those things, our results go down. And then we make adjustments off of those changes. So I wouldn't say drop the ball. I would just say you live in a active world. It's not a static world. And there's always going to be changes. And then from there, I would communicate that on a regular basis that we're always fighting to get back up there, and there's going to be dips, and then we're going to fight to get back up there. And all I want as a business owner is someone who's going to communicate and think on my behalf. But if I have to think and communicate, then you lost. If I have to go in and think and go, hey, I'm trying to figure out why I'm not getting these views. Why did it dip? Do you guys know that there was an algorithm update? Do you guys know that these videos aren't working like this anymore, that Instagram doesn't like it anymore like this? Are you guys, if I'm doing that communication, I'm basically doing your job. And that's where you start to lose value. But if you're thinking and you're being proactive on it, then it makes it very easy to stay with you as a client.
I have to point this out because this is important. First off, thank you for that, because as simple as that might have sounded to everyone listening, that really just blew my mind, because I've been doing that for a while, but that's like one of the biggest ways that my company provides value, and I didn't even realize it until now. Like, that's not only the biggest selling point, but like just that itself, like, hey, you will never have to worry about content again on any platform or figuring out what works when and how to make it work. We'll literally do that for you. That's huge. And I'm thinking about it now, like as a business owner in the agency, I'm going through that right now. Like for our own content, it's me, right? So I'm thinking like, what if I had somebody in place who could do exactly what I do for my clients for myself, which is super valuable to, build out and to think about. But that's exactly right, I guess. And Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but one easy way you could provide value to your clients is quite literally by making sure that they don't do the job you were hired for in the first place. I know that might sound kind of basic and simple, but I think a lot of people forget about that. Like when you start, for example, doing lead generation for your clients, and your client has to come to you and ask you why the leads are not coming in this month, you've already lost. You should be going to the client and explaining why the leads didn't come in this month. It's so simple, but it honestly just blew my mind.
Well, where we're trying to get to is we're trying to get a month ahead on every client. We're trying to be a month ahead of telling them this is what's going to happen in the market, in your particular market. And here's what's going to happen with the patients, because we have all this data and we know that these are going to go up or down. And here's how you can start preparing for it a month. So on June 1st to June 10th, we're hoping to have a talk with every single one of our clients about July.
Wow, that's incredible. No, that's brilliant. I got to do the same thing. I got to figure out a way to execute on that too, because I think that would save a lot of time. And besides, that's another way you get stickier, because if you're always 1 month ahead, you're always 1 month ahead. And when you're working month to month, like both of our companies are, that 1 month means a lot, right? Because then you just keep going. You get another month and another month, and the next thing you know, it's been 28 months.
So this is so big to us. One of our core values is proactiveness. I do not want our clients coming to us. We should be going to them. And so one of our core values is be proactive.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I think this was a bang of an episode. I got a lot of value personally from this. I think we gave a lot of value. What else do you think we should touch on, Gary, or as we wrap up here?
I think this is just a process like anything else. You work through it. You build out the parts that are important to you. You test it. You're going to lose some clients along the way. You support, you learn from it, and then you do it again. And it's just the slinky again, but it's just in a different part of your business.
We got to make a hat with the slinky on it, Gary. We got to do something with that slinky. There's got to be something. But no, I think that makes sense. And listen, I think we're going to have an episode coming out soon. The next step, once you get this all in process, the next big thing is, you're making amazing work for clients. You're retaining clients well. You have fantastic client and customer experiences. How do you turn those clients into raving fans that refer you business to 10x your business? I think we could do a whole episode talking about referrals. I know you have a lot of experience with that, and we'll definitely do that. But I guess for now, guys, thank you very much for watching, for listening. If you guys enjoyed and found value and you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We post a new episode every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Gary, if you want to tell them to go leave a review on all the podcast platforms.
Yeah, leave a review, guys. We already covered it at the beginning, but make sure you guys, if you're still listening right now and you didn't leave a review, come on, man.
Clearly you like listening to us talk. So whatever you're doing.
I don't think I've ever finished a podcast. So whoever this person is right now listening, please reach out to me, DM me on Instagram. I want to know who you are that are listening to the podcast all the way to the end. I really do. I'll send you a shirt.
We will shout you out. So if you listen to this right here,
I'll shout you out. So if you listen all the way, I'll come and help you with your business. Derrik will help you with your videos. Anybody who's at this point right now, just reach out to us. I want to know who you are.
Send a DM that says like a color, like blue or red or something. That way we know what this is about, right? And so then we'll be able to realize what's happening.
No one listening.
Probably not. Probably not. Except Kyle. Except Kyle. Definitely Kyle's here. Kyle's going to message us.
Kyle's going to reach out and say blue.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much, guys. And I'll talk to you guys later.